I had 48 hours to decide. Let my father die or marry two dangerous strangers who knew everything about me. I chose wrong. Or maybe I chose right. I still don't know. Ruth stared at the two platinum wedding rings on her fingers, one from each twin, as the FBI agent across the table slid crime scene photos toward her. Mrs. Kim, we know what your husbands do. We know what you've done. But if you help us bring them down, you walk free. Your father stays in treatment. Your sister stays safe. You just have to betray the two men you've fallen in love with. She looked at the photos. 7 bodies. Some she recognized. One she'd killed herself. "How did I get here?" she whispered. 6 months earlier. Ruth's hands trembled as she stared at the text message from an unknown number. "Your father has 48 hours. We're his only hope. Midnight. Corner of state and division. Come alone or he dies." She should have called the police. Should have shown the message to someone. Anyone. But the attachment made her blood freeze. A photo of her father in his hospital bed, taken from inside his room. Tonight. Someone had been watching him while he lay dying. The fluorescent lights of Northwestern Memorial's ICU flickered above her as she made her decision. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. 3 months to live, Dr. Morrison had said. Unless he got the experimental treatment in Seoul, $3 million, money they'd never have. She deleted the message and headed for the elevator. Chicago's winter night bit through her thin jacket as Ruth stood on the corner, watching luxury cars pass by. At exactly midnight, a black Mercedes pulled up, windows so dark she couldn't see inside. The back door opened. "Get in, Miss Okafor. Your father's time is running out." The voice was male, accented, Korean. Ruth's heart pounded as she peered into the dark interior. This was insane. This was how people disappeared. But her father's pale face flashed in her mind. The way he'd whispered, "I'm sorry, baby girl," when the doctor explained they'd exhausted all affordable options. She got in. 2 men sat in the shadows of the back seat. As the car pulled into traffic, the interior lights gradually brightened, revealing faces that made her breath catch. Identical twins. Both devastatingly handsome in that dangerous way that screamed money and power. The one on the left wore all black, turtleneck, slacks, a watch that probably cost more than her yearly tuition. Cold eyes studied her like she was a specimen under glass. The one on the right was dressed more casually in a designer suit, leaning back with deceptive relaxation, but his gaze was just as intense. "I'm Kim Tae-young," the one in the suit said, extending his hand with perfect courtesy. "This is my twin, June. Thank you for coming." Ruth didn't shake his hand. "You sent me a picture of my father. You've been watching him, watching me. Who the hell are you and what do you want?" June's lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. "Direct. Good. We don't have time for games anyway." Tae-young pulled out a tablet, swiped through screens, then turned it toward her. "Your father, Dr. Emmanuel Okafor, retired chemistry professor, stage 4 pancreatic cancer, denied by insurance for experimental treatment. You work 3 jobs trying to raise funds, waitressing at Lou Mitchell's, overnight shifts at the university library, weekend catering gigs. Your 12-year-old sister, Chamaka, lives with your aunt in Bronzeville. You're 26, pursuing a master's in art history at UChicago, currently on academic suspension because you can't afford tuition." Each fact felt like a violation. "You've been stalking me." "We've been researching you," Tae-young corrected smoothly. "There's a difference." "Not to me. I'm leaving." Ruth reached for the door handle. It didn't budge. "The doors are locked," June said calmly. "They'll unlock when we're finished talking. Sit back, Miss Okafor. You're going to want to hear this." Fear spiked through her, but Ruth forced her voice to stay steady. "Is this a kidnapping? Because I'm worth exactly nothing. My bank account has $43 in it." "We don't want your money." Tae-young set the tablet aside, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. "We want to offer you a deal. We pay for your father's treatment, full coverage, best oncologists in Seoul, private facility, aftercare for life. We also pay off your student loans, set up a trust fund for your sister's education, and give you a monthly stipend of $50,000. The numbers were so absurd, Ruth almost laughed. In exchange for what? My kidney? Both kidneys? June's expression didn't change. In exchange for you marrying us, both of us, for a minimum of 2 years. The world tilted. You're insane. We're practical, Taeyang countered. Let me explain our situation. Our family runs Kim Industries. You've probably seen our buildings. Downtown. What you don't know is that our business extends into less legitimate territories. We control significant portions of Chicago's underground economy. Our mother in Seoul is pressuring us to marry women from appropriate Korean families. Women she's selected. Women who will give her leverage to control our operations. We refuse to be controlled, June cut in, his voice hard as granite. We need a wife who has no connections to Korean business families, no hidden agendas, no family debts to repay, someone desperate enough to agree but strong enough to survive in our world. Ruth's mind raced. This is insane. Marriage fraud is illegal. Not fraud if the marriage is real, Taeyang said. You'll legally marry June. Socially, you'll be wife to both of us. We'll live together, attend events together, present a united front. In exchange, your father lives. Your sister's future is secure, and you get enough money to start over when the 2 years are up. What happens behind closed doors? The question came out smaller than she intended. June's eyes darkened. Nothing without your explicit consent. We're not animals, but we won't pretend we don't want you. What happens between the 3 of us will always be your choice. The car was moving through Chicago's streets, past neighborhoods Ruth recognized. They were heading toward the Gold Coast, toward money and power so far removed from her world they might as well be on different planets. I need to think. Your father has 48 hours, June interrupted. The treatment needs to start immediately or his window closes. We need an answer tonight. That's not fair. Life isn't fair. Taeyang's voice softened slightly. But this deal is. We're offering you something no one else can, a chance to save your father and secure your future. All we ask is 2 years of your life. The Mercedes pulled up to a building that looked like it had been carved from glass and steel, the Peninsula Hotel. Ruth had walked past it 1,000 times, never imagining she'd ever step inside. A valet opened her door. "Welcome to the Peninsula, ma'am." Taeyang stepped out first, extending his hand to help her. June emerged from the other side, and suddenly she was flanked by both twins as they walked through a lobby that reeked of old money. "We have a suite upstairs," Taeyang explained as they stepped into an elevator. "Private, secure, where we can talk more freely." Every instinct screamed at her to run. But when the elevator doors closed, Ruth caught sight of her reflection in the polished brass, a tired woman in a cheap jacket and scrubs from her hospital shift, eyes hollow from too many sleepless nights. Her father was dying. She had no money, no options, no hope, except the one these 2 dangerous strangers were offering. The presidential suite was obscene, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Lake Michigan, furniture that looked like art installations, a grand piano in one corner, space bigger than her entire apartment building. June moved to a bar pouring amber liquid into crystal glasses. "Bourbon. You look like you need it." Ruth took the glass but didn't drink. "I need to understand why. You're clearly wealthy, clearly powerful. You could hire any actress, any model to play this role. Why me specifically?" Taeyang settled on a cream leather sofa, gesturing for her to sit across from him. "Several reasons. First, you're American-born, which gives you citizenship advantages our mother can't easily overturn. Second, you have no connections to our world, no leverage for enemies to exploit. Third, your father's situation makes you desperate enough to agree, but not so desperate that you'd betray us for a better offer later. And fourth," June added, sitting beside his brother, "you're a survivor, working 3 jobs while taking care of your dying father and supporting your sister. You're smart, resourceful, and stronger than you know. Those are Qualities we need in a wife. Wife. The word felt surreal. Ruth finally took a sip of bourbon. It burned going down, grounding her. What exactly would this marriage entail? Day to day, I mean. Taiyang pulled out a folder, slid it across the glass table. Contract terms. You'll live in our estate in Lincoln Park. Your own suite, complete privacy. You'll attend social functions with us. Charity galas, business dinners, family events. You'll present as our devoted wife. In return, your father gets treatment immediately. Your sister gets a full-ride scholarship to any school she wants. You get the monthly stipend and a lump sum of $5 million when the 2 years are complete. If you leave before 2 years, June added, his tone making it clear this was non-negotiable. The treatment stops. The money stops. Everything stops. Ruth flipped through the contract with shaking hands. The legal language was dense, but certain clauses jumped out. Marital duties to be determined by mutual consent. Public appearances are mandatory minimum twice weekly. Pregnancy clause. If she became pregnant, the contract extended to 5 years with additional compensation. This pregnancy clause is standard protection, Taiyang said quickly. We're not planning on that happening, but if it did, we'd want to ensure the child's security. Ruth set down the contract. I need guarantees, real ones. How do I know you'll actually pay for his treatment if I agree? June stood, walked to a desk in the corner, returned with a laptop. A few keystrokes and he turned it toward her. Check your father's hospital portal, patient account. She logged in with trembling fingers. Her breath caught. Outstanding balance. 0.0 new entry. Patient approved for experimental treatment protocol. Transportation to Seoul National University Hospital arranged. Departure, 72 hours. Full financial coverage confirmed. Sponsored by Kim Medical Foundation. We already paid, Taeyang said, softly. The treatment is happening whether you agree to marry us or not. Your father lives regardless. Ruth's vision blurred with tears. Then why do you need me to agree to anything? You already have the leverage. Because we're not monsters, June interrupted. We won't force you into anything. The treatment happens either way. But if you agree to the marriage, you also get the money, the security, the future. If you decline, we'll respect that. Your father still gets help. You just don't get the additional benefits. It was a kindness she hadn't expected, one that made the choice somehow harder. Can I have time to think? Just a few hours? You can have until morning, Taeyang agreed. There's a guest room through that door. Stay here tonight. Rest. Think it through. We'll need your answer by 8 a.m. Mrs. Choi appeared as if summoned, an elegant Korean woman in her 50s with kind eyes. I'll show you to your room, dear. The guest suite was larger than Ruth's entire apartment. Mrs. Choi laid out sleeping clothes, silk pajamas in exactly her size, because of course they knew her measurements. Can I get you anything else? Mrs. Choi asked. Tea? Food? Can you tell me if they're good men? The Kim brothers? Mrs. Choi's expression became carefully neutral. They're complicated men, dangerous men, but they honor their word. If they promise you something, they'll deliver. Whether that makes them good is something you'll have to decide for yourself. After Mrs. Choi left, Ruth stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at Chicago's glittering skyline. Somewhere out there, her father lay dying. Her sister was growing up without parents. Her own life was on hold, drowning in debt and desperation. These strangers were offering her a way out, a bizarre, unconventional, possibly dangerous way out, but a way nonetheless. She thought about the twins, Taeyang with his smooth courtesy and sharp intelligence, June with his brutal honesty and controlled danger. Both of them looked at her not with pity but with something else. Calculation, yes, but also interest? Attraction? No, that was insane. This was a business transaction, nothing more. But as she climbed into the absurdly comfortable bed, Ruth couldn't stop thinking about June's words. We won't pretend we don't want you. What did that mean? What were they really after? She fell asleep with no answers, only more questions. Morning came with soft knocking. Mrs. Choi entered with a breakfast tray, coffee exactly how Ruth liked it, cream, 2 sugars, fresh fruit, pastries that smelled like heaven. "The Kim brothers will see you in 1 hour," Mrs. Choi said gently. "Take your time." Ruth showered in a bathroom bigger than her bedroom, dressed in the clothes that had been laid out. Designer jeans that fit perfectly, a cashmere sweater in deep emerald. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the polished woman staring back. The twins were waiting in the main room, both dressed for business. Tae-young in a charcoal suit, June in all black again. They stood as she entered. "Did you sleep?" Tae-young asked. "Not really." Ruth clasped her hands to stop them shaking. "I have questions before I give you my answer." "Ask," June said simply. "What happens if I fall in love with someone else during these 2 years? What if I want out?" Tae-young's expression tightened almost imperceptibly. "The contract has a fidelity clause. For appearances, you can't be seen with other men romantically. Behind closed doors, we won't monitor your personal life. But publicly, you're ours." "What about you two? Are you allowed to see other women?" "No," June said flatly. "If we're asking you to be faithful, we'll hold ourselves to the same standard." "Why? If this is just business..." "Because it's cleaner that way," Tae-young interrupted. "No complications, no jealousies, no diseases. Clean and simple." There was something in the way they both tensed that made Ruth think it wasn't quite that simple, but she moved on. "What if your mother finds out this is a business arrangement? What if she tries to have the marriage annulled?" June's smile was sharp. "Our mother is formidable, but she can't annul a legal marriage. And once we consummate it, even she won't have grounds to challenge validity." Heat crept up Ruth's neck. "Consummate?" "Only if you choose to," Tae-young added quickly. "Remember, nothing happens without your consent. But yes, eventually we'd need to make the marriage appear fully legitimate." The implications made her head spin. She moved to the windows, needing distance to think clearly. "Last question. What aren't you telling me? There has to be more to this. No one offers millions of dollars for a fake marriage just to spite their mother." The twins exchanged a long look. Some silent communication passed between them. Finally, June spoke. "You're right. There is more. Our business. Operations have attracted dangerous attention. Rival organizations. Federal investigations. We need the legitimacy of a stable marriage to certain business partners and government officials. A wife makes us look settled, trustworthy, less likely to be the criminals they suspect we are. So I'm a cover story." "You're a shield," Tae-young corrected. "One that protects you as much as it protects us. As Mrs. Kim, you'll be untouchable. No one will dare threaten you." "And if I say no?" "Then we wish you well," June said. "Your father still gets treatment. You walk away with nothing else but no hard feelings." It was the escape clause that made Ruth realize they were serious. They were giving her a real choice. She thought of her father, of Chiamaka, of the life she could build with $5 million and no debt. She thought of 2 years with these dangerous, beautiful strangers. "I have one condition," she said finally. "If I agree, I want complete honesty going forward. No more secrets. No more surveillance without my knowledge. If I'm going to be your wife, even a fake wife, I deserve the truth." "Agreed," Tae-young said immediately. June nodded. "Full transparency." Ruth took a deep breath, looked out at Chicago one last time as a free woman. "Okay, I'll do it. I'll marry you both." The twins moved toward her simultaneously, like they'd choreographed it. Tae-young took her right hand, June her left. "Then we should start immediately," Tae-young said. "The marriage ceremony is scheduled for this afternoon. City Hall, private ceremony, minimal witnesses." "This afternoon?" Ruth's voice cracked. "That's too fast. Your father flies to Seoul tomorrow," June reminded her. "We need you legally bound to us before he leaves. Protection starts the moment you sign the papers." Mrs. Choi appeared again with a garment bag. "Your wedding dress, Mrs. Kim." The title hit like a physical blow. Mrs. Kim. She was really doing this. The next hours passed in a blur of preparation. Hair and makeup artists transformed her. The dress, simple but elegant cream silk that somehow fit her curves perfectly, making her look like she belonged in this world. When she looked in the mirror, she saw a bride. A real bride about to marry two men she'd met less than 24 hours ago. "You look beautiful," Taeyang said from the doorway, his eyes warm with what looked like genuine admiration. June appeared behind him, his gaze more intense, more possessive. Perfect. The ceremony at City Hall was efficient and surreal. A judge who asked no questions, two witnesses Ruth didn't recognize, and the twins in matching black suits that made them look like princes from a dark fairy tale. "Do you, Ruth Okafor, take June Kim to be your lawfully wedded husband?" She looked at June. His dark eyes held hers steadily, no doubt, no hesitation. "I do." June slid a platinum band onto her finger. "Mine," he said softly. Not part of the ceremony, but a claim, nonetheless. Taeyang stepped forward, placed a matching ring on her right hand. "Ours," he whispered. "You may kiss your bride." June moved first, cupping her face with surprising gentleness before pressing his lips to hers. The kiss was brief, but claimed ownership in a way that made her knees weak. Then Taeyang turned her into his arms, his kiss softer, but no less possessive. When they finally stepped back, Ruth was married to both of them in every way that mattered. "Welcome to the family, Mrs. Kim," the judge said with a knowing smile. The reception was at their Lincoln Park estate, a mansion that made the Peninsula Suite look modest. Chicago's Korean elite filled elegant rooms, all wanting to meet the mysterious woman who'd married both Kim brothers. "She's stunning," a woman gushed to Taeyang. "Where did you find her?" His arm tightened around Ruth's waist possessively. "She found us. We're the lucky ones." The lie flowed so smoothly Ruth almost believed it herself. She played her part perfectly, smiling, gracious, the devoted new bride. But exhaustion crept in as the night wore on. Finally, near midnight, the twins escorted her upstairs to what they called her suite. It was larger than any apartment she'd ever lived in. Bedroom with a king bed, sitting area, walk-in closet already filled with designer clothes in her exact size, bathroom with a tub that could fit 3 people. "Everything you need is here," Taeyang explained. "Our rooms connect to yours through these doors." He indicated 2 doors on opposite walls, but they only open from your side. You control access completely. "Get some rest," June added. "Tomorrow we start teaching you how to navigate our world. It won't be easy." They left her alone, and Ruth finally let herself collapse onto the bed. She was married to 2 men, strangers who'd bought her father's life and her future in one efficient transaction. What the hell had she done? But when her phone rang and she heard her father's voice, stronger already, hopeful about the soul treatment, she knew exactly why she'd done it. "Baby girl, thank you. I don't know what you did, but thank you. Just get better, Daddy. That's all I need." After she hung up, Ruth stared at the platinum rings on her fingers, glinting in the lamplight. Mrs. Kim. For better or worse, that was who she was now, and she had 2 years to figure out what that really meant. Sleep came eventually, but her dreams were full of dark eyes and dangerous promises, and the feeling that she'd just stepped into something far more complicated than a simple business arrangement. Morning would bring new rules, new dangers, new truths. But tonight, she was just a woman who'd sold 2 years of her life to save the people she loved, and she couldn't decide if that made her brave or foolish. Probably both. The first morning, as Mrs. Kim began with screaming alarms and the sound of running footsteps, Ruth bolted upright in bed, heart pounding. Both connecting doors burst open simultaneously, Taeyang and June rushing in, weapons drawn. "Stay down," June commanded, moving to the window. "What's happening?" Ruth's voice came out steadier than she felt. Taeyang was already on his phone, speaking rapid Korean. He covered the receiver. "Security breach. Someone tried to access the property. They're contained, but we need to move you to the safe room until we know who sent them." This wasn't the slow introduction to their world she'd been expecting. This was baptism by fire. June grabbed her arm, not roughly, but with undeniable authority. "Come, now." They led her through hidden panels Ruth hadn't known existed, down stairs that smelled like concrete and earth, into a reinforced room filled with monitors showing every angle of the estate. A man was restrained on one screen, face bloodied, shouting in Russian. "Kozlov family," Taeyang said grimly, watching the feed. "Russian syndicate. They must have heard about the marriage already. They're testing our defenses." "Testing for what?" Ruth asked. June's expression was granite. "For you, to see if you're really under our protection or if you're vulnerable." The reality of what she'd stepped into crystallized with brutal clarity. This wasn't just about avoiding their mother's matchmaking. This was about power, territory, danger. "I thought you said I'd be safe as your wife," Ruth said, hearing her voice rise. "You are safe," Taeyang assured her. "This is proof of that. They tested, they failed, they'll back off. But you need to understand, our world has enemies. Being Mrs. Kim makes you both protected and valuable. We need to teach you how to survive both." Over the next weeks, her education began in earnest. Mornings with a former Special Forces soldier named Marcus, who taught her to shoot, to fight, to recognize threats. "Mrs. Kim," he'd say patiently as she missed another target, "your life may depend on this someday, again." Afternoons with Mrs. Choi learning Korean language and culture. "The family will test you," she warned. "You must be fluent in our ways." Evenings attending events with the twins, learning to read the room's power dynamics. Who was the ally? Who was the enemy? And who was playing both sides? She was good at it, better than she'd expected. The twins were always there. Taeyang with patient explanations, June with brutal honesty. She started learning their tells. How Taeyang's left eye twitched when he was lying. How June cracked his knuckles before violence. 6 weeks into the marriage, her father video called from Seoul. He looked better than she'd seen him in years. Color in his face, weight returning. "The treatment is working, Ada. The doctors say I might have years, not months." Tears streamed down her face. "That's amazing, Daddy." "But baby girl, I need to know the truth. These Kim brothers, what did you really agree to? Your aunt says you married one of them, but the news shows you with both. What's going on?" Ruth glanced at the twins sitting nearby, giving her privacy, but close enough to hear. "I married into a complicated family," she said carefully, "but they're keeping their promises. You're getting better. That's what matters." After the call ended, June brought her wine. "You're a good liar. That will serve you well." "I hate lying to him." "Then think of it as protecting him," Taeyang suggested. "The less he knows about our world, the safer he is." That night, unable to sleep, Ruth found June in the estate's gym, destroying a punching bag. "Can't sleep either?" she asked from the doorway. He didn't stop punching. Never could. Too many threats to think about. She watched him move, all controlled power and lethal grace. "Do you ever regret this life? Wish you'd chosen something different?" Now he stopped, breathing hard. "Every day. But we don't get to choose our families. We just choose what we do with the power they give us." He moved toward her, sweat-slicked and dangerous. "Do you regret marrying us?" Ruth should have said yes, should have maintained distance. Instead, honesty spilled out. "I don't know yet. Ask me in 2 years. Something shifted in his expression. "Fair enough." He reached past her to grab a towel, close enough that she could feel his body heat. For a moment, tension crackled between them, electric and dangerous. Then Taeyang's voice cut through it. "June, we have a situation." The moment shattered. Over the next months, the lines between business arrangement and something real began to blur. There was the night someone shot at their car during a charity gala, and both twins covered her body with theirs, willing to die to protect her. The morning she woke to find Taeyang asleep in the chair beside her bed, having watched over her all night after she'd had nightmares about the shooting. The afternoon June taught her to fight and ended up pinning her to the mat, both of them, breathing hard, his eyes dark with something that wasn't just violence, small touches that lingered, glances that meant more than words. The way they both tensed when other men looked at her too long. She was falling for them, both of them, and she was terrified. Then came the night that changed everything. A business dinner at Alinea, Chicago's most exclusive restaurant. The twins, Ruth, and representatives from their Seoul office, including someone Ruth hadn't met. Lee Minji walked in like she owned the place. Stunning, elegant, everything Ruth wasn't. Taeyang, June. She kissed both their cheeks with familiar intimacy. How wonderful to see you, and you must be the wife. The way she said wife dripped with condescension. Taeyang's hand found Ruth's under the table, squeezed reassuringly. Minji, this is Ruth, my wife, June's wife. How modern, Minji purred, sitting across from them. Tell me, Ruth, how does one manage being married to two men? It must be quite exhausting. The table went quiet. Ruth met her gaze steadily. I manage just fine, thank you. Minji's smile was poisonous. I'm sure you do, for now. But these arrangements rarely last. The twins always get bored of their toys eventually. June's voice cut like ice. Careful, Minji, you're speaking about my wife. Am I wrong, though? She leaned forward. Did you tell her about your father's arrangement? The real reason you needed to marry quickly? Ruth's stomach dropped. What arrangement? The twins exchanged glances. Taeyang's jaw was tight. Not here. Oh, this is rich, Minji laughed. You didn't tell her. How delicious. Minji, enough, Taeyang warned, but she ignored him, turning to Ruth. Your sweet husbands didn't just need to marry to avoid their mother's matchmaking. Their father left a will with an interesting clause. If they're not married and producing heirs by age 30, their entire American operation goes to their cousin in Seoul. They turn 30 in 6 months, dear. You're not a wife. You're a walking uterus. The words hit like physical blows. Ruth stood, her chair scraping loudly. Excuse me, I need air. She fled the restaurant, ignoring the twins calling after her. Outside, Chicago's cold night air stung her face. She'd been such a fool. Of course, there was more to this. There was always more. Footsteps behind her. Both twins. Ruth, let us explain. Taeyang started. Explain what? That you lied? That this whole marriage was really about securing your inheritance? We didn't lie, June said flatly. We told you we needed legitimacy. This is part of that. You said nothing about needing heirs, about your father's will. Taeyang ran his hands through his hair, frustrated. We didn't think it was relevant. You were clear you didn't want intimacy. We weren't planning to pressure you for children. But you were planning to keep using me, Ruth shot back. To parade me around as your wife while secretly needing me, to get pregnant to save your fortune. It's not like that, Taeyang insisted. Then what is it like? Explain it to me. June stepped closer, his expression raw in a way she'd never seen. It's like we made a business deal and then made the mistake of catching feelings, real ones, for you, both of us. The admission hung in the cold air. That's convenient, Ruth said bitterly, now that you need heirs. Fuck the heirs, June growled. Fuck the inheritance. We'd give it all up if it meant you'd believe us, Taeyang added softly. We're in love with you, Ruth. Both of us. Completely. We have been for weeks. The inheritance complicates things, yes, but our feelings are real. Ruth wanted to believe them, wanted to fall into their arms and pretend the lies didn't matter, but she'd been used too many times. I need time. Alone. Don't follow me. She walked into the Chicago night, her heart breaking, wondering if anything between them had ever been real. Behind her, the twins watched her disappear, both of them realizing they might have just lost the one thing that mattered more than any fortune. And the story was far from over. What was your favorite moment so far? Drop a comment. And if you're hooked, smash that subscribe button. You do not want to miss how this story explodes. Hit that like button and turn on notifications. Trust me, the next part will leave you shook. Check our playlist for more addictive stories after this. Ruth walked for 20 blocks before she realized she had no idea where she was going. The Chicago night was bitter cold, and she'd left her coat at the restaurant. Her phone buzzed constantly, the twins calling, texting, probably tracking her location through the phone they'd given her. She turned it off. A black SUV pulled up beside her. Her heart seized. This was how people disappeared in the twins' world. But the window rolled down to reveal Mrs. Choi. "Get in, child, before you freeze to death or get yourself killed." Ruth climbed into the warm interior gratefully. Mrs. Choi handed her a thermos of tea without comment, driving in silence for several minutes. "Where are we going?" Ruth finally asked. "My apartment. The twins don't know about it. You'll be safe there while you think. They'll track the car." Mrs. Choi smiled. "This car isn't registered to Kim Industries. Some of us keep secrets even from them." The apartment was modest but elegant, a studio in Wicker Park filled with books and photographs. Mrs. Choi made more tea while Ruth sat wrapped in a blanket, trying to process everything. "They love you, you know," Mrs. Choi said finally. "I've worked for the Kim family for 20 years. I've never seen those boys look at anyone the way they look at you. They lied to me. They omitted certain truths. There's a difference." Mrs. Choi sat across from her. "In their world, full honesty is dangerous, but I've watched them struggle with their feelings for you. It's real, Ruth. Messy and complicated, but real. How can I trust anything they say now?" Mrs. Choi pulled out a photo album, flipped to a picture of 2 teenage boys, the twins, younger, standing beside an elegant woman. The twins watched their father use women, discard them, even married a second wife and treated their mother with disdain. They swore they'd never be like him. That's why they've never seriously dated anyone, why they've never brought a woman into their world. Until me. Until you. And yes, initially it was strategic. But somewhere along the way, strategy became something else. I see it in how Taeyang checks on you at night when he thinks everyone's asleep. How June adds extra security detail whenever you leave the estate. How they both tense when other men look at you. Ruth wiped tears from her face. What about the inheritance? Minji said they need heirs or they lose everything. Mrs. Choi's expression darkened. That's true. Their father's will has a clause. Married with. Children by age 30, or the American operations transfer to their stepbrother. It was his way of controlling them from beyond the grave. So they do need me to get pregnant. They need you for many things, but ask yourself this. If it was only about heirs, why not choose a Korean woman from an appropriate family? Why go through the complication of marrying someone their mother would disapprove of? Why risk everything for you specifically? Ruth had no answer. Her phone, which she'd turned back on, rang. Not the twins. Her father. "Ada, what's going on? Taeyang just called me. Said you'd had an argument and left. Are you safe?" Her father's concerned voice made fresh tears fall. "I'm fine, Daddy. Just marriage stuff. It's complicated." "Do they hurt you? Because I don't care how much money they have if they hurt you." "No, nothing like that. They've been good to me. I just found out they weren't completely honest about why they needed to marry me." Her father was quiet for a moment. "Ada, can I tell you something? About why I really left Nigeria?" The subject changed through her. "What do you mean?" "I told you I left because of political instability. That was partially true. But the real reason, your mother's family is one of the most powerful in Nigeria. Oil money, political connections, the works. When she died in that car accident, her family blamed me. Said I was after her fortune." Ruth's world tilted again. "What fortune?" "Your mother was an heiress, baby girl, worth hundreds of millions. When she died, it should have gone to you. But her family contested the will, claiming I'd manipulated her. I took you and ran to America to keep you safe from that mess. But technically, you're an heiress. The legal battles have been ongoing for 26 years. The revelation stole her breath. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because I got a call today from lawyers in Lagos. The courts finally ruled in your favor. You've just inherited $300 million and controlling interest in an oil company. It will hit the news within 48 hours. Ruth's hands shook so badly she nearly dropped the phone. That's impossible. It's real. I've been protecting you from this your whole life, but now... Ada, this changes everything, including your marriage. Those twins married you thinking you were nobody with nothing. When they find out you're worth more than their inheritance... It changes the power dynamic, Ruth finished, her mind racing. After hanging up, she told Mrs. Choi everything. The older woman's eyes widened. This is significant. The twins don't know? Nobody knows except my father and apparently some lawyers in Nigeria. You need to tell them before they find out another way. But Ruth was thinking strategically now. What if I don't? What if I let them think I'm still the desperate woman they married? See if their feelings are really real or if they were just convenient. Mrs. Choi looked worried. Playing games with the Kim brothers is dangerous. So is marrying them without full disclosure. They kept secrets. So can I. Ruth returned to the estate at dawn. Both twins were waiting in the foyer, looking like they hadn't slept. Relief flooded their faces when they saw her. Ruth, thank God, Taeyang moved toward her. We were terrified. We've had teams searching all night. I needed space. I got it. Now we need to talk. They moved to Taeyang's office. Ruth sat across from both of them, channeling every bit of strength she had. I'm willing to continue this marriage, she began, but on new terms. June leaned forward. What terms? Complete honesty. No more omissions, no more convenient forgetting to mention crucial details. You tell me everything about your business, your family, your plans, everything. Agreed, Taeyang said immediately, and the heir situation. If I do decide to have children with you, with both of you, it will be because I want to, not because of your father's will. You need to find another way to secure your inheritance that doesn't involve using me as a broodmare. June's jaw tightened. We never intended to use you. Then prove it. Figure out another solution. You have 6 months. Use them. Both twins exchanged glances. Some silent communication. There might be a way, Taeyang said slowly. Our father's will has a loophole. If we can prove the inheritance clause was made under duress or undue influence, we can contest it. Can you prove that? Ruth asked. June's smile was sharp. Our father had dementia in his final years. His second wife, our stepmother, had significant influence over him. If we can prove she manipulated him into adding that clause to benefit her own son, we can get it overturned. Then do that. And until then, we continue as we are, married in public, separate in private. Ruth, Taeyang started, those are my terms. Take them or I walk. And good luck. Explaining to Chicago society why your month-old marriage is already falling apart. The threat was real, and they knew it. Agreed, June said finally. We'll contest the will. We'll give you complete transparency, and we'll wait for you to decide when and if you want more from this marriage. Something in his voice made Ruth's heart ache, but she held firm. She didn't tell them about her inheritance. Not yet. That was her card to play when the time was right. Over the next weeks, the twins kept their word. They included her in business meetings, explained the intricacies of their operations, showed her the legal and illegal sides of their empire. She learned they controlled shipping routes, real estate development, and yes, certain underground gambling and protection operations. Not as violent as the movies portrayed, but not entirely legal either. She also learned they were being investigated by the FBI. Agent Sarah Chen had been building a case for 2 years. She has. Nothing concrete, Taeyang explained during a meeting with their lawyers, but she's persistent. Our marriage actually helps, makes us look more legitimate, less like criminals. So I'm a shield in more ways than one, Ruth observed. You're our wife, June corrected. Everything else is secondary. But Ruth noticed how they both tensed when Agent Chen's name came up. There was something they weren't telling her. She found out 3 days later when Agent Chen approached her outside her art history class at UChicago, which she'd been able to resume thanks to the twins' money. Mrs. Kim, can we talk? Agent Chen was mid-40s, sharp-eyed, wearing a pantsuit that screamed, "Federal Agent." "I don't think that's appropriate," Ruth said carefully, remembering the twins' warnings about law enforcement. "5 minutes, please. It's about your safety." Against her better judgment, Ruth followed her to a coffee shop. Agent Chen slid a folder across the table. "I've been investigating the Kim brothers for racketeering, money laundering, and conspiracy. I have evidence they've killed at least 7 people in territorial disputes over the last 5 years. Ruth's blood ran cold. "That's not possible." "It's very possible, and you're now an accessory to their crimes, unless you help me build a case against them." "You want me to betray my husbands. I want you to save yourself, because when I bring them down, and I will bring them down, everyone close to them goes down too, unless you're cooperating with my investigation." Agent Chen pulled out more photos, crime scenes, bodies, dates, and locations that Ruth recognized from the twins' calendars. "Think about it, Mrs. Kim. You're young, smart, you have your whole life ahead of you. Don't throw it away for 2 criminals who married you for convenience." After Agent Chen left, Ruth sat staring at the folder until her coffee went cold. That night, she confronted the twins in June's office. "Agent, Chen approached me today, showed me evidence of murders, bodies, dates. She says you've killed 7 people." The twins' expressions went carefully blank. "What did you tell her?" June asked, his voice dangerously quiet. "Nothing. But I need to know the truth. Did you kill those people?" Silence stretched. Finally, Taeyang spoke. 4 of them, yes. June and I personally. The other 3 were ordered by us, carried out by our security team." The confirmation hit like a fist to the stomach. "Why?" "Because they threatened our operations, our family, our lives." June's eyes were hard. "This is the world we live in, Ruth. Sometimes violence is necessary for survival." "That's 7 people who are dead because of you." "7 people who would have killed us if given the chance," Taeyang countered. "We're not innocent, Ruth. We never claimed to be. But we're not monsters either. Every person we've killed was a direct threat." Ruth felt sick. "Agent Chen wants me to cooperate with her investigation, to help bring you down." Both twins tensed. "Will you?" June asked. It was the moment of truth. Ruth thought about the past months, the way Taeyang brought her coffee every morning exactly how she liked it, the way June taught her to shoot, patient despite his usual brusqueness, the way they both looked at her like she was precious beyond measure. She thought about her father, healthy and thriving in soul, about Chiamaka, excelling in her new school, about the life these 2 dangerous men had given her family. "No," she said finally, "I won't cooperate. But you need to understand. I'm choosing you over my conscience, over my safety, over everything I was raised to believe. Don't make me regret it." Relief flooded both their faces. Taeyang pulled her into his arms, and this time she let him. "We'll protect you from Chen," he promised. "From everyone. You're ours now. Completely." That night, for the first time, Ruth unlocked the connecting doors to both. Their rooms. When they appeared in her doorway, questions in their eyes, she simply said, "I'm tired of sleeping alone." Nothing happened beyond sleep, but waking up between both of them, safe and warm, felt like coming home. The next morning brought a new crisis. Ruth's Nigerian inheritance hit the international news. Long-lost heiress discovered in Chicago screamed the headlines, complete with photos of her and details of her mother's family fortune. The twins found her reading the news on her tablet, her face pale. "When were you going to tell us?" Taeyang asked quietly. "I only found out a few weeks ago, right after dinner with Minji." June's expression was unreadable. "You've been sitting on a $300 million inheritance and didn't think that was relevant? You sat on needing heirs for your inheritance. I sat on having my own. We're even." "This changes everything," Taeyang said, running his hands through his hair. "Every criminal organization in the World now knows you're worth a fortune. The kidnapping threats just multiplied exponentially. He was right. Within hours, security had to be tripled. Death threats started arriving, ransom demands from organizations that hadn't even kidnapped her yet. "I'm sorry," Ruth whispered. "I didn't think it would blow up like this." June pulled her close. "Not your fault. But we need to move fast. Get you secured, get your assets protected, figure out how to manage this before someone tries something." Someone tried something that very night. Ruth was sleeping when the explosion rocked the estate. She woke to fire alarms, smoke, and June crashing through her door. "Move! Now!" They ran through smoke-filled hallways, Taeyang appearing from the other direction. Gunfire erupted below them. "Kozlov family," Taeyang shouted over the chaos. "They're hitting us hard, trying to grab Ruth while we're distracted by the fire." They made it to the safe room, but not before Ruth saw bodies, security guards who died protecting them. Inside the reinforced room, they watched on monitors as their security team battled the Russian invaders. The fighting was brutal, professional, and deadly. "They came prepared," June observed grimly. "This wasn't opportunistic. They've been planning this." "Ever since the news about Ruth's inheritance broke," Taeyang agreed. "They know she's worth more now. The ransom potential just became irresistible." The battle lasted 30 minutes. When it was over, 12 Kozlov soldiers were dead. 5 of the twins' security team hadn't made it. Dmitry Kozlov sent a message an hour later, delivered by a courier who was quickly detained. "Your wife is worth 300 million. We'll take 100 million and return her unharmed. Refuse, and we'll take her anyway and sell her piece by piece to the highest bidder. You have 48 hours. June crumpled the message, his face murderous. "I'm going to kill him, personally." "We need to be smart about this," Taeyang cautioned. "An all-out war with the Kozlovs will draw federal attention we can't afford. Chen is already circling." "I don't care," June snarled. "They threatened Ruth. They die. All of them." Ruth had been silent, processing everything. Now she spoke. "Use my money." Both twins turned to her. "What?" Taeyang asked. "I have 300 million. Use it. Pay them off, make them go away, buy us time to figure out a permanent solution." "Absolutely not," June said flatly. "We're not giving criminals your inheritance. It's my money, my choice, and I choose ending this before more people die." But Taeyang was shaking his head. "It won't work. The moment we show willingness to pay, every organization will line up for their piece. We'll spend your entire fortune buying temporary peace." "Then what's the solution?" The twins exchanged one of their loaded glances. "We end the Kozlov family permanently," June said. "Tonight." The plan was insane and brilliant. While Dmitry waited for his ransom, the twins would hit every Kozlov operation simultaneously. Warehouses, gambling dens, money laundering fronts, everything. "We're not just neutralizing a threat," Taeyang explained as they geared up. "We're sending a message. Touch what's ours, and we'll erase you from existence." Ruth watched them prepare, checking weapons, coordinating with their security teams, planning the attacks with military precision. "I'm coming with you," she announced. "Absolutely not," both twins said in unison. "I can shoot. You trained me for this, and I'm tired of being the damsel you protect. Let me fight." June looked ready to argue, but Taeyang surprised them both. "She's right. She's been trained. She's capable. And keeping her locked away just makes her more vulnerable." After a heated debate, they agreed. Ruth would stay with them, protected but present. The convoy of black SUVs rolled out at midnight. 20 vehicles, 60 trained operators, heading to different Kozlov locations across Chicago. Ruth rode with the twins, bulletproof vest tight against her chest, gun heavy in her hands. "Stay behind us," June instructed for the 10th time. "If shooting starts, you get down. Understood?" She nodded, adrenaline making her hands shake. The warehouse district was dark and abandoned, perfect for illegal operations. The twins' team surrounded the building where Dmitry was reportedly hiding. Then everything went sideways. The warehouse exploded before they could breach, a massive fireball that sent their team scrambling for cover. "It's a trap!" Taeyang shouted. Gunfire erupted from surrounding buildings. The Kozlovs had been waiting, had turned the hunters into prey. The next minutes were chaos. Ruth found herself separated from the twins, pinned down behind a car with bullets tearing through metal above her head. She saw June take a bullet to the shoulder and watched him keep fighting like he didn't feel it. Saw Taeyang executed 3 men with cold precision, protecting their team. Then she saw Dmitri. He was retreating toward a vehicle using his own men as shields. Something in Ruth snapped. All the fear, the anger, the terror of the past months, it focused into a single point. She stood, aimed, and fired. The shot was perfect. Dmitri went down, clutching his leg. June appeared beside her, bloodied but grinning fiercely. "That's my wife." They secured Dmitri before his remaining forces scattered. The Kozlov Empire effectively decapitated. Back at the estate, as medics treated June's shoulder, Ruth couldn't stop shaking. "I shot him. I shot a person." Taeyang wrapped a blanket around her shoulders. "You protected your family. There's no shame in that." Is there ever a point where this becomes normal? Where violence doesn't make me sick? "God, I hope not," Taeyang said softly. "The day violence becomes easy is the day we've lost our humanity." 3 days later, Agent Chen showed up with an arrest. Warrant. June Kim, Taeyang Kim, you're under arrest for racketeering, conspiracy to commit murder, and about 15 other charges. The twins were handcuffed in their own foyer while Ruth watched helplessly. "Don't say anything," June told her. "Call our lawyers. Stay safe." As they were led away, Taeyang caught her eyes. "We love you. Remember that. Whatever happens, that's real." Then they were gone, and Ruth was alone in the massive estate with a choice to make. Agent Chen had left her card. "When you're ready to talk, call me. You can still save yourself." Ruth stared at the card for hours. Then she made a call, not to Agent Chen, to her father's lawyers in Nigeria. "I need to access my inheritance immediately, all of it. And I need the best criminal defense attorneys money can buy. I don't care what it costs." If the twins had used their resources to save her father, she'd use hers to save them. The legal battle that followed made national news. The Kim brothers. Trial became a media circus. Sex, money, violence, and a love triangle that defied conventional morality. Ruth sat in court every day, visible support for her husbands. The prosecution painted her as a naive victim. The defense painted her as a willing participant. The truth was somewhere in between. Agent Chen took the stand with her evidence. The bodies, the financial records, the pattern of violence. It was damning, devastating. Until Ruth's legal team revealed that 3 of the 7 murders had been self-defense, justified by video evidence Chen had conveniently omitted. 2 others were committed by men who'd since left the Kim organization and fled to Korea. That left 2 murders directly attributable to the twins, both against men who'd first killed Kim employees. The case began to fall apart. Then came the bombshell. One of Chen's key witnesses, a former Kim security guard, admitted under cross-examination that the FBI had offered him immunity and relocation in exchange for testimony. He'd lied about what he'd seen to save himself. The prosecution's case collapsed. The judge dismissed most charges for lack of evidence. The twins were found guilty of minor racketeering charges, enough for probation and fines, not jail time. When the verdict was read, Ruth cried tears of relief. Outside the courthouse, surrounded by cameras, June pulled her into his arms. "You saved us. You could have walked away, saved yourself. Instead, you spent millions defending us." "You're my husband's," Ruth said simply. "That means something to me, even if it started as a business." Taeyang joined the embrace. "It's not business anymore. You know that, right? We're past pretending." She knew. She'd known for weeks. "I love you both," she admitted publicly for the first time. "I don't know how it works, loving 2 people. But I do." The cameras captured it all. The kiss June gave her, fierce and possessive. The gentler kiss from Taiyang, no less claiming. Chicago's society would talk. Let them. 6 months after the trial, Ruth discovered she was pregnant. The test sat on the bathroom counter, 2 pink lines glaring up at her. She hadn't planned this, hadn't even discussed it with the twins since their agreement to keep things separate until the inheritance was sorted. But the will contest had been won. The twins had proven their stepmother's manipulation. The heir clause was void. They didn't need children for their inheritance anymore, which meant this pregnancy was purely... what? Accident? Fate? She told them that night over dinner. Both twins froze, forks halfway to their mouths. "You're pregnant," June repeated, like he couldn't quite process it. The doctor confirmed it today, about 6 weeks along. 6 weeks. Taeyang's face went through several emotions. That would have been right after the trial. The night they'd celebrated the verdict, the relief and adrenaline had led to the 3 of them, finally, completely, giving in to what they'd been fighting for months. "Is it?" June started, then stopped. "Do you know which of us? Does it matter?" Ruth asked. "The baby is ours, all 3 of ours." Silence. Then Taiyang started laughing, pure joy breaking across his face. "We're going to be fathers." June's smile was slower but no less genuine. "You're keeping it? The baby?" "Of course I'm keeping it. Unless you don't want it?" June pulled her onto his lap. "I want everything with you. Marriage, babies, forever. All of it." Taiyang joined them, his hand finding her still flat stomach. "Our family. For real this time." The pregnancy was complicated. At 3 months, an ultrasound revealed twins. "Because of course it's twins." Ruth laughed through tears. "Nothing about this family is simple." The twins were overprotective to the point of absurdity. June wanted her on bed rest from month 4. Taiyang interviewed 50 nannies before the babies were even born. "You're both insane," Ruth told them regularly. "Women have been having babies for thousands of years. I'll be fine." Then came the night everything went wrong. 7 months pregnant, Ruth woke to pain and blood. So much blood. The twins rushed her to Northwestern Memorial, where Dr. Morrison, the same doctor who'd first diagnosed her father, took over. "Placental abruption," she explained grimly. "We need to deliver now or we will lose both babies." The emergency C-section was a nightmare. Ruth barely conscious, the twins barred from the operating room, both pacing the waiting area like caged animals. When Dr. Morrison finally emerged, her face was grave. "The babies are alive. Premature but stable. Ruth lost a lot of blood. She's in recovery, but..." "But what?" June demanded. "There were complications. She may not be able to have more children. The damage was extensive." Neither twin cared about more children. They only cared that Ruth was alive. She woke to find them both at her bedside, holding tiny bundles. "You have a son and a daughter," Taeyang said softly, placing the baby girl in her arms. "Both fighters, like their mother." The baby was so small, so perfect. Ruth counted fingers and toes, marveling at this tiny life. "What should we name them?" she whispered. They'd discussed names for weeks, never deciding. Now, looking at his daughter, June said, "Amara, it means grace in Igbo, for how she came into this world." Taeyang looked at his son. "Dayo, joy arrives," because he did. Amara and Dayo Kim, their children, their future. The NICU became their home for 6 weeks while the babies grew stronger. Ruth recovered slowly, the twins taking shifts, so she was never alone. Agent Chen visited once, looking at Ruth through the NICU glass. "You could have had a different life," she said quietly. "Safe, normal, legal?" "I have the life I chose," Ruth replied. "That's enough." Finally, they brought the babies home to the Lincoln Park Estate. Both twins fumbling with car seats, terrified of breaking their tiny children. Mrs. Choi had prepared the nursery, 2 cribs, 2 of everything, painted in soft yellows and greens. "Welcome home, young masters," she said, tears in her eyes. That first night, all 5 of them slept in the master bedroom, the twins in bed with Ruth, the babies in bassinets beside them. "This is real, right?" Ruth whispered in the darkness. "We're really a family." "We're really a family," Taeyang confirmed. "Forever," June added. "No more contracts, no more deals. Just us." 6 months after the twins were born, Mrs. Kim, the twins' mother, finally came to visit from Seoul. She walked into the nursery where Ruth was feeding Amara while Taeyang burped Dio. For a long moment, she just watched. Then she spoke in Korean, which Ruth now understood fluently. "I was wrong about you. I thought you were an opportunist, a gold digger who seduced my sons for money." "I didn't seduce anyone," Ruth replied in careful Korean. "They proposed a business arrangement. We fell in love despite ourselves." Mrs. Kim's lips curved slightly. "My sons have never brought a woman home, never introduced anyone to family, never shown interest in settling down. Then you appeared, and within weeks they were married, fighting wars, risking everything to protect you. I asked myself, what made you special?" "And?" Ruth prompted. "And now I see. You're not special because you're beautiful, though you are. Not because you're wealthy, though you are. You're special because you're strong enough to handle both my sons without being consumed by them. That's rare." She moved closer, looked down at Amara. "My granddaughter. She has your eyes." "And your son's stubbornness," Ruth added. Mrs. Kim actually smiled. "Good. She'll need it in this family." She switched to English. "You have my approval, daughter, and my protection. Anyone who threatens you or these children will answer to me, personally." Coming from Mrs. Kim, that was worth more than any fortune. 2 years after the wedding, the end of their original contract, the twins planned something special. They took Ruth to the Chicago Botanic Garden at sunset, the babies with Mrs. Choi back at the estate. In a gazebo covered with flowers, they renewed their vows. Not because a contract demanded it, because they wanted to. 2 years ago, we married you to solve problems," Taeyang began. "To save your father, to secure our inheritance, to maintain control of our empire. It was business, strategy, self-interest. But somewhere between the contracts and the chaos," June continued, "we fell in love, real love, the kind that changes everything." So today, Taeyang pulled out new rings, platinum bands engraved with their initials intertwined. "We're asking you to marry us again, not for business, not for strategy, just because we love you and want to spend the rest of our lives proving it." Ruth was crying, happy tears streaming down her face. "You're both ridiculous. We're already married." "Say yes anyway," June prompted. "Yes, always yes." They slid the new rings onto her fingers, and she put matching bands on theirs. When they kissed her, June first, then Taeyang, it felt like a real beginning. As they walked back to the car, Ruth thought about the terrified woman who'd gotten into a Mercedes 2 years ago, desperate and out of options. She'd made a deal with devils and found angels instead. Or maybe not angels. The twins were still dangerous, still involved in business that skirted legality, still capable of violence when threatened, but they were hers, and she was theirs, and somehow, that was enough. "What are you thinking about?" Taeyang asked, his arm around her waist. "I'm thinking I'd do it all again. Every bullet, every risk, every impossible choice. For this, for you, for us." "Good," June said, pulling her closer, "because you're stuck with us forever. Promise?" "Promise." And as the Chicago sunset painted the sky in shades of gold and amber, Ruth knew she was exactly where she belonged, with 2 men who loved her completely, in a life that defied every convention, with children who were miracles, in a family that was strange and beautiful and absolutely hers. The contract that brought them together had expired, but their love would last forever. That was insane, right? What was your favorite part? The Nigerian inheritance? The FBI investigation? The emergency C-section? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you're not already subscribed, what are you waiting for? Smash that subscribe button because we have more jaw-dropping Afro-Korean romance stories coming your way that will leave you shook. Hit that like button if this story had you in your feelings, and turn on those notifications so you never miss an upload. Seriously, the next story is even more dramatic. You don't want to miss it. Now go check out our playlist for more addictive content while you're still riding this emotional high. See you in the next one, besties.